Hey everybody, this is Gabe here. Today we're going to talk about cash flow for your business and how to make the most of it. So, here we go. Do you know how much it costs to run your business? Do you have a good understanding of your expenses? If you're not sure, that's okay. Don't sweat it. I was in the same position about 12 years ago trying to get a feel for how things were going with my business. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the story of Elaine. Elaine is a consultant and her business is growing like crazy. And she's having a hard time getting an understanding of what her expenses are, how much her profits should be. Basically, she was stuck. She was confused as to where she needed to go and wasn't quite sure where to start. Does that sound like you? It was definitely me about 12 years ago when I went out on my own. So she came to me, and she wanted to help me understand her cash flow. She wanted me to help her turn that into action so that she could actually start living the life that she wanted. And the reason she went out on her own was to create the life and the freedom to have a great life. Well, so I asked her to get me three things. Actually, it was really four, but I asked her to get me three things. Get me your wages, get me your overhead, and get me your profit. But we need to have the revenues to understand what the profit is. So, in essence, if we do some really quick little math here, or at least give you the formula for what we're going to talk about today, we need to understand what your revenues are. We need to understand what your wages are. We need to understand your overhead, which is your expenses, and that gives us an idea what your bottom line or is your profit. So what we did is we dug into her wages to get an understanding of what her wages were. And she's paying herself around $100,000 a year. She's got a virtual assistant. She's paying another $12,000, so she's got wages of $112,000. I then asked her to pull together her expenses. Those expenses are going to be your phones, your insurance, your executive coaching, your retirement plan contributions, any additional expenses that come as a result of having that in place. And we got an understanding what that was. It was about $4,000 a month or $48,000 per year. We then went to try to figure out what her profit was. And I said, okay, Elaine, what was your revenues for the last 12 months? Revenues for the last 12 months were $200,000. So what we did is we took her $200,000, subtracted out her $160,000 of expenses for the year, which is made up of her $48,000 of expenses, her overhead expenses, and her pay, her wages plus her virtual assistant of $112,000 gives her $160,000. Subtract that from $200,000, you know the math, simple math, is $40,000 in profit or a 20% profit margin. Well, her confusion comes as a result of, research that basically says, well, the CPAs will tell you that you should have a third, a third, a third. Like if you're pricing your product, a third should go to overhead, a third should go to profit, and a third should go to wages. And so she wanted to understand what was going to be the best thing for her. And so we got an understanding of where she was. We did the math. We understood that her wages made up about 56% of her revenues. Her overhead made up about 24%, and then she showed a 20% profit margin. And she was still confused. And I said, well, the first thing you need to understand is every business is different. You operate a solopreneur business. You work out of your home. Your expenses are going to generally be lower, and you're the business. And when you're their business, you have a tendency to make up more of the pay. And so we then decided to dig further. Could we improve her situation and help her at all? And the simplest place that I always like to start is your expenses. Do we have expenses that we are putting into place and that we are paying every single month? It might be software, it might be extra insurance, it might be different programs that we're paying for that we just don't use. And what we did is we found $400 per month of software that she wasn't using any longer. We tried to decide where the best place for that to go was. And short, sweet, and simple, she decided that she would feel best putting that into her solo 401k. So that she then knew she was starting to build further along the lines of her retirement plan and starting to build that future security. And the other thing that it allowed her to do is feel a little bit about where she was with her business expense, her wages, her profit, her overhead, and felt much better with what was going on. That allowed her then to start to change her thinking. And her mind shift started to look at, all right, well, how can I improve my business and make it better? And she started to consider using some of the systems that she'd been reading about and decided to focus on systemizing her business to make it more efficient, which in the long run was going to make it more profitable anyways. So now it's your turn. All right, so what I'd like you to do, or I would advise you to do, you can do whatever you want to do, but I'd like you to pull out your QuickBooks or whatever your accounting software is and pull out your numbers. Just pull out a piece of paper, and actually if you want a one-page easy worksheet to work from, I've created it. It's at gabenelsonfinancial.com. I'm sorry, that's my email address. It's at gabenelsonfinancial.com/resources, and there's all kinds of information that you can go and download and use for free. But pull out your revenues. Get an understanding of what your revenues were for the last 12 months. Get a feel for what your wages were. Get a feel for what your overhead was, and then calculate your profit. Get a feel for where you're currently at, and then analyze that. Does it fit into the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, or is it like a lane where it's a little bit different? All right, and if that's the case, that's okay. Take a look then and figure out where you can improve upon that. Can you make your revenues higher? Do you need to do a fee increase that you've never done in the past? Can you decrease your expenses? Can you change an expense place from going from one place to another and then increase your 401k? Your solo 401k. Most of you solopreneurs, if you've listened to me enough, know that my favorite retirement plan for solopreneurs is solo 401ks. So, running a business can be hard. All right? Just know that you're not alone. I'm here to help you partner, help you become successful with this, and help you grow past this, and also to help you create the life that you intended when you went and started this business. So your next steps is to basically go download that resource. You also could start listening to my podcast, my Solopreneur Money podcast, which you can find on your favorite podcast application. And if you need any assistance whatsoever and would like some help mastering your finances to allow you to create the life that you love, all right, reach out to me at gabe@gabenelsonfinancial.com, or even go to my website, gabenelsonfinancial.com. You can click Start Here. It walks you through my whole process of how I might be able to help you. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.